welcome back to our Steve Judd. I'm Sue Brain and I'm here with Steve, and we're welcoming you all to join us as usual. Now, Steve, we've just been talking about there might be a few changes on the horizon. Oh, and life may be speeding up a bit. So I think we'll start with that and we'll just see where we go with it all.
Okay. Well, Saturn's going to stop going retrograde in a few 6 days' time, for 2 days' time, sorry. Pluto's going to stop. Pluto's going to move into Aquarius in 6 days' time. There's a killer full moon tomorrow.
With Uranus involved.
Neptune's going to stop going retrograde in a few weeks' time. Mars is going to start going retrograde in 3.5 weeks' time. Mercury's going to start going retrograde in about 2 weeks' time. And Pluto's moving into Aquarius properly. It's all happening at once.
Let me just chuck in the fact that Chiron's going to be going direct at the end of December. Of course.
Yeah. And so, and the world is, and all of these things are happening as a kind of last minute fix before the really big events of next year.
Yeah.
So it's like all the planets are now really sort of elbows out, jostling for position to get the best run in for next year. And we just realised that in March of next year, there's a 5 or 6 planet conjunction for a couple of weeks in March at the end of Pisces. Saturn, Neptune node, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and for a couple of days the Sun and Moon as well, all at the end of Pisces. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Those babies born then during that time are going to be very interesting because very Piscean.
Very
Piscean. So anybody who's pregnant and their babies are due around about early March, isn't it? Yeah, early March.
It's actually about mid-March, about the middle 10 days of March.
Yeah.
First second week of March.
Just be aware.
I'm looking at it now, my ephemeris, and it's ballistic. It's bonkers.
Just be aware.
So much going on.
Bringing into this world a child who's going to be very, very attuned to the Piscean energy, and that's the suffering of the world as well as the compassion for all mankind and people kind and animal kind and world kind. So just know that your child is going to need a lot of support, your baby.
Any child who's born around the second week of March is going to have an exceptionally powerful horoscope.
Yes. And it may be one of the, I don't know whether people have heard about the rainbow children. I think they've been and gone and done. I don't know about that, but certainly there will be, I think, a soul group coming through carrying that energy.
Well, we'll see. More on that later, nearer the time. But in the meantime, this next few weeks is pretty bonkers on its own.
Yes, and I just wondered if you wanted to talk about the impact of Uranus on the full moon on the 15th, and we're on the 13th today, the 13th of November today.
It's full moon in 48 hours from now. Yeah. Maybe from the time we're recording, it's about 54 hours from now. Yeah. So it's common knowledge that it's conjunct the midheaven of both J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, and it's conjunct the sun sign position of both Israel and Palestine. So, and because it's conjunct Uranus, now I did a lot of stuff on Astrology Hub on this one last night. Uranus brings change, and that is guaranteed. And the thing about Uranus is because all the other planets spin like that, and Uranus spins like that. Poles are on the equator. So everything about Uranus is different, especially its random moon. All of its moons, all the Shakespearean moons go like that. The one moon that goes prograde, as opposed to retrograde, is called Margaret's, as opposed to Titania or Oberon. So, go figure. Change can be disruptive, chaotic, dramatic, sudden, unpredictable, and pull the rug from underneath your feet and bring chaos and disorder. It can also be innovative, original, exciting, fun, and adventurous with words like independence, freedom, and liberty. To have a chart with not only the moon very strongly conjunct Uranus, and the moon is moving forward and Uranus is going retrograde, so they're getting closer, but also having the sun opposite Uranus, both of these accurate to within 1.25 degrees strong, suggests that we live in very unstable and uncertain times. And both individually and collectively, this last few days, 3 or 4 or 5 days, and this next week are times where literally anything could happen.
That's why we'd say to everyone is just be very vigilant, just be very aware, and be just we don't want to fearmonger. That's not what we're about, but just be very, very vigilant about what's going on for you, and especially if you start feeling you're being drawn into arguments or you're in a situation which might be very volatile. So just be very, very careful to find a way out to walk.
I'll go away and think about this. I'll come back to you next week.
Yeah. Or if you're in a very difficult relationship or marriage, it would be a good idea to find a safe place.
I've just had a flashback to a moment, a good few years ago. I was doing an interview in Regent's Park. I know it was about 6-7 years ago, because this was the very first person to tell me about this new wonderful app called Zoom. And they said to me, what's a good one sentence way of describing how someone born with a sun conjunct or opposite Uranus behaves? And I couldn't help it. The caustic astrologer burst into action and said, well, punching the mouth often offends, but it normally sorts things out. Now, that is exactly the wrong way to behave with this full moon. Yes. Ignore my crass stupidity and deliberately do not take knee-jerk reactions.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
And just be really careful when you're driving or you're traveling or anything like that. Just be extra vigilant. Doesn't mean to say you've got to stop doing anything and staying at home. That's not what we're saying. It's just be careful.
No. If you hide under the bed will collapse on top of you.
Exactly.
There's that energy out there now. Yeah. And if you don't use it, it will use you.
Yeah.
So have a look at the area of 24 degrees Taurus in your own personal birth chart, people. Work out what house it's in and ask yourself, what areas of this part of my life can I now bring to a sudden and successful conclusion? Because it's a full moon. It's about endings, not new beginnings.
What can I get? What do I need to release, get rid of? Or what do I do? What doesn't feed me anymore? What doesn't serve me anymore, isn't it? Because it's also Taurus. So what are my values? Do I need to change my values?
Indeed. And because it's Taurus has always been associated with not just values, but money, possessions, property, assets, resources, value systems, what it is we hold valuable in our life. And when Uranus moved into Taurus, I thought, blimey, okay, well, that's the bank's finished then. And I did read that yesterday after the election in America, crypto's now at $80,000 for a Bitcoin. It said its highest ever. So, crypto appears to be here to stay.
It's very volatile though at the moment. It's not a stable. It's not a stable thing. But if you're a risk taker or you're a gambler, Uranus is there behind you on your shoulder. But if you're not, don't. If you're, Taurus likes safety and stability.
I had a client this morning tell me, look, invest in anything that Elon Musk is doing. You're going to make lots of money. And I'm thinking,
he's made
maybe, yeah, but my personal values and ethics are not about investing in that type of opportunity, because somewhere along the line, someone else is going to suffer if I gain. Now, I'm not being a blooming socialist about it or too holy ever now, but then I don't speculate. I
Mm,
don't gamble.
no,
Um,
no.
I prefer to do it the boring way through hard work
Well, I
because I
think
know that's real.
we've talked about this before, haven't we, Steve? We talked about the whole concept of Taurus and money and self-worth. And what does that mean to you? And maybe, I think the higher aspect of Uranus is sudden insight, isn't it? It's this, it's sudden download of understanding. Like, God, I hadn't seen it like that before. It can be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Another way of looking at Uranus is like the higher octave of
Yes,
Mercury.
absolutely.
And here we're looking at the supersonic travel, the space travel, the internet. And I was doing a lecture to a local astrology group a few nights ago, and I remember something I used to go on about a lot. How well you and I have just been listening to this wonderful YouTube video about the similarity between the number of neurons in the brain and the numbers of galaxies in
Yes.
the
Yeah.
universe, right? Well, in the same similar vein, it was pointed out to me by Serena Roney Dougal about 15, 20 years ago that the Earth is like a single cell amoeba or a single cell cellular organism, but that in the last 50 years, by sending out radio and then television signals and then satellites and spacecraft, we're reaching out for contact. And when cells start reaching out and sending out tendrils, then they start merging together and bigger cells form.
Yes.
It does, to me, this is a really Uranian activity because we're reaching out for not just bigger ideas, but higher ideas, but based on the future rather than the past, because Uranus is
Yes.
very much connected with the future.
Aquarius is all about the future. It doesn't do the past. Absolutely not.
That's why when astrological students say to me that Uranus is all about revolution, I kind of just it's semantics, but I put a hyphen in there and I go, no, it's about re-evolution.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about the upgrade potential.
But we do need revolution to get to that, don't we? But
We
we don't
do.
need for it to be destructive. But things do need to change, and we know that it's that Pluto coming out of patriarchal Capricorn, the really earth energy, heavy energy into Aquarius, which is just air and communication and mad ideas. That's an incredibly different energy that we're going to go
It
in.
is, and especially with Pluto about to go into a 2 year long trine with Uranus in Gemini. That
Yes.
I'm so looking
Yes.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Um, but the other night I was talking with these astrological students, and this is the advantage of our age because we remember when Pluto moved into Scorpio, and then when it moved into Sag, and
Yes.
then when
Yes.
Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, we all said, well, this is the beginning of the end for ideas around world governments and nation states. And now, of course, there's still nation states, although they're fragmenting all over the place. But instead of world governments, we've got really big corporations, very, global corporations, global banks.
Yes.
So it's like we've swapped one form of order for another.
But
Um,
it's the digital, isn't it? It's that Uranian digital global market. And of course it's going to want to expand into
mm,
something else. I mean, Elon Musk, love him or hate him, he is the embodiment for me of a Uranian a person that's come at this time to hold that energy. Whether it is, as I said, whether it's good or bad, that's not the issue. He is an absolute embodiment for me of Pluto moving into Aquarius.
um, I I am really hopeful of Pluto moving into Aquarius. I really am. The first couple of years are going to be tempestuous,
Yes. Well,
but
it's when they're all moving in, isn't it? And they have to settle into their new
yeah,
parents and new.
by sort of late 27, I think it'll all be settling down and stabilizing, and then we're going to be able to make accurate forecasts for the long-term future. That's the idea. But by then, a lot of nation states will have ceased to exist. Borders will be more porous.
Yeah.
Um, there'll still be a few militaristic countries who go, no, our borders are staying the way they are, but they're going to become more of the dinosaurs. They already are.
It's
Um,
interesting what's going to happen to the politics of it, though, isn't it? Because if this is such a major change from that patriarchal, heavy earth energy into air and futuristic stuff and very Uranian, that is not the governments that we've got today.
no, it's not. And that's why when I hear some of the stories about some individuals in America saying there won't be any more elections in America, I'm thinking, no, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Not for the reasons they're thinking of,
Yes.
simply because everything's going to go a lot more digital and moving away from analog. And it's the same in Britain and Europe as well. The idea of everything becoming more online. And of course, that opens it up to hackers and blah, blah, blah. But long term, you can't put a plug in evolution or the acceleration of development just because of the dangers associated with it. Because if we did that, we might as well all just die.
Well, we
You
would
know,
never have walked out of the caves.
exactly.
We're on an evolutionary scale. And the trouble is, I think the thing is that we've got so entrenched in the fact we're the most important thing on the planet, us, the human species. And that's not true. Life is the most important thing on this planet, expressions of life. It isn't us. We just think we are. And I think that is going to change again with this Uranian, this
And
whole
that
the Uranian themes coming in, and that's when AI is going to come in. I mean, whether you agree with it
and
or not,
ASI,
it is going to come in. It's
it's
here.
already here.
It's
It's
here.
already here. I'm using it all the time.
Yeah.
And ASI is next, advanced superintelligence, which is scary but fascinating. We're never going to get to the point of Skynet in the Terminator movies. It's just not going to get like that. Um, but what's really coming back to where we are now, when you think of how much, who had heard of Chat GPT, AI, and ASI, except for in movies, a year and a half to 2 years ago? No one.
Not me.
Less than 1%.
Yes,
Now it's
absolutely.
common everywhere. The
Yeah.
acceleration is
Yeah.
increasing, and the rapidity of astrological phenomena over the coming 4 weeks, 6 weeks. There is also a crunch point at the very beginning of January when Mercury clears its retrograde shadow and Mars and Pluto are opposite each other at 1 degree
Yes.
of Aquarius Leo, with Pluto, Mars being retrograde. That is also going to be a really pivotal moment. But that'd be the anniversary of the riots in America. So
Yes.
we'll see. We'll see.
And the anniversary, well, it's also going to re-trigger what's happened around the American elections because it was absolutely exact, the opposition on that day. I tell you what I'm interested in. The divide between people who want to remain, that's, in traditional human behaviors and relationships, and those that want to go AI, those that want the implants,
So
those that,
analog, digital.
yeah, yeah. And I think that could be a huge split in humanity's
Oh, it's going to be. There's no doubt
desire to,
about it.
yeah.
The
And
the the not too far down the line now, we've already got the download, the digital brain. We've already got digital implants in our brains, which can help epileptics manage their seizures, which can encourage people who have never been able to walk using
yes,
port.
exactly.
And this is just the start.
Yeah.
The
I
thing
think,
is, with the increasing climate chaos
mm,
and the degradation, some type of enhancement of the genome is almost certain to have to happen. Otherwise, people's resistance to environmental chaos will rapidly deteriorate and will die out within 3 or 4 generations.
Well, I think this is what I find so interesting. So humanity is going this way on the backdrop behind climate change, which we are out of control with, and Gaia having her own evolutionary experience going on. So that's where I'm so interested to say, well, we can think whatever we want because, we've got the ability to, oh, we're going to go that way. And Gaia goes, no, you're not. We're going my way, but we don't even know what that is. We're totally out of control around how Gaia is evolving. Does that make sense to you?
And part of me loves it. But I was born with a Mars-Uranus conjunction. I like
You like
not
it?
not anarchy or rebelliousness, but I like occasionally just upsetting the apple cart a little bit to see which way things fall, because
Yeah.
you got to take chances. We're risk averse as a species, and without taking chances, the
Yeah.
future's staid and boring.
It strikes me that Gaia is just throwing stuff at us to go, do you know what? You are mortal. You can't just depend on or build this safe life because it is, life isn't like that. My life, my Gaia created home for you is increasingly unstable. So you start to learn to value what's really important for you.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Um,
Yeah.
Coming back to where we are now, it does seem that with this full moon in a couple of days' time, that is the last big trigger point of this year. And of course, there's lots of planets changing signs and going retrograde and going direct, as they do in their own cycles. And yes, there's a lot of them happening at once. But I think that over the next 6 weeks through to the beginning of January, we're seeing the end of these sudden dramas, but that doesn't mean it's all going to calm down. There's the state of heightened anticipation, expectation, or something's happening. I can feel it in my water. There's something brewing. I can feel it. That everyone seems to be going through is going to become the new normal,
Yeah.
at least for the next few months. I suspect that by the time we're ready to start embracing Saturn and Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini, this will have become a kind of default background vibe, which some of us will adapt to and some of us won't.
Well, Pluto is all about survival of humanity.
Yes.
Mars is our own survival, isn't it? That's got that sort of, personal survival. But Pluto is leading the way on the survival of humanity.
And this is what gets me about the 1% of people who have most of the money and most of the facilities, because despite their aspirations, you can't jump in a spaceship and go and live in orbit yet, because you can't afford to take the staff with you, and robots aren't that sufficiently evolved to replace humans yet as staff. So they're stuck on planet Earth with everyone else.
Yeah.
And yet we're all in the same boat.
Well, we're all in it together, that's for sure, one way or another.
Yeah.
I
And
think
those people who are still looking at purely how do I make money, which is common in many countries of the world, as opposed to how does this affect the planet? How does this affect people around me?
how can we survive together? Yes, it's interesting. It's I think Uranus. Well, being an Aquarian, I just totally relate to the whole Uranus stuff going on at the moment. But we were talking about how important the Uranus full moon is for various political leaders. Do you want to just finish by mentioning that? Because that could radically change things that we think are set.
Oh, we can if you want, but we're going to upset a few people.
Ooh, go on then.
Okay, let's do it. Can I shoot? Can I go?
Yes.
I'm not unconvinced that there was astrological input into the American election, and particularly the choice of J.D. Vance as vice president. Trump's ascendant and Vance's ascendant are 2 degrees apart. Trump's midheaven and Vance's midheaven are 2 degrees apart. Trump has Mars on the ascendant in Leo. Vance has Leo on the ascendant in Leo. Vance has the exact square between the Sun and Saturn, with his Sun exactly on top of Trump's Pluto and his Saturn exactly square to Trump's Pluto. So there's obviously going to be a lot of mutual suspicion of each other by each other until they've worked with each other for a long time and trust has formed, if that were to happen. Their moons are sextile. But the emphasis is on both of the fact that Vance's midheaven is at 22.5 degrees of Taurus. Trump's midheaven is at 24 degrees of Taurus. And the new moon is at 24 degrees, the full moon is at 24 degrees of Taurus.
Yep.
So I believe that a lot of people didn't vote for the Republicans, they voted for Trump. Now, it's pretty obvious that all of the legal charges against Trump are now going to either be delayed, postponed, or deleted. Nevertheless, Uranus on his midheaven.
Yeah.
It ain't over yet.
And
I asked a question of a few American astrologers a couple of days ago. I said, what happens if for whatever reason Trump can't be inaugurated? Would Vance then become the next president for 4 years? And they were all just looked at me and went,
yeah. Well, we can only look and witness
indeed
what's going to happen, but just to be aware that this story has not been completed.
Absolutely. And I need to qualify this from an astrological perspective. As astrologers, we can speculate to our heart's content.
And enjoy it.
And enjoy it as well. But we cannot safely predict. We can forecast, but not predict.
Yes.
But most of all, I believe more and more now that as astrologers, as astrological students and practitioners, it is our job to try and inspire hope. Without hope, we have nothing. I realize that sometimes it's really dark out there. I'm still doing sort of 15, 25 readings a week. I'm 2-year waiting list, but but hope, you need to inspire people and make people go out and think, well, if she thinks I can do it, maybe I can do it. And then they do it. And it's like, great, their lives have turned around and improved. Because the astrologer said, well, there is this probability. If you do it at the right time, you'll get it right. And then their lives change. And then this spreads like a ripple effect. 1 million little droplets of change make a tsunami.
And that's why I'll put the link below this video, by the way, of the video I sent you about the universe being alive.
Yes, I think that's a really important point.
16 minutes long. But my goodness, it really is about, be so responsible about how you think and what you put into the collective, because the universe is responding to us as we are responding to that. And science now is beginning to prove that. And that gives me faith and hope.
Indeed. And let me just take that conjecture one step further. If the universe is conscious and is alive, has a degree of sentience in some shape or form, then I suggest that the universe is lonely.
Yes, you've always said that. Lots of friends.
It wants beings it can relate to as company. Hello. We have potential. Please continue to upgrade us.
Yeah.
Of which astrology is a vital part.
Absolutely. And just opening up and saying, universe, I am here for you. I will do we will do it together.
a tsunami of change.
Yeah, and find your own tribe here. People that are awake, people who want to talk about this stuff, people who are willing to explore it. It isn't about right or wrong, or just having these amazing concepts around to just to share, and it just to allow your brain to grow and expand, and that enables the universe to do the same.
What a lovely way to end.
Rightio. On that note, we'll see you guys next time. Don't know when we're going to be together, but we will be.
Before solstice.
Before the sol. You bet. Take care, everyone. Much love to you all.
Bye.
Bye for now.